A significant diplomatic shift occurred when Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Turkmenistan publicly supported Cyprus's sovereignty and labeled Turkey as an occupying power in Northern Cyprus. This development has strained Ankara's ambitions for pan-Turkic unity and raised questions about the future of the Organization of Turkic States. For decades, Turkey has sought to unite the Turkic world under a single banner, championing the cause of pan-Turkism. With the creation of the Organization of Turkic States, Ankara envisioned a future in which linguistic, cultural, and political ties among Turkic nations would evolve into tangible regional cooperation. From Turkey to Central Asia, this vision aimed to revive a historical bond that transcended borders. However, recent developments have sent shockwaves through Ankara's strategic ambitions. 4 Central Asian states publicly declared support for UN resolutions labeling Turkey as an occupying power in Northern Cyprus. Even more striking, they appointed ambassadors to the Republic of Cyprus, a move seen as tacit recognition of Greek Cypriot sovereignty over the entire island, directly undermining Turkey's position and its recognition of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. From Ankara's perspective, this wasn't just a diplomatic snub, it was a betrayal. Cyprus has been divided since 1974, when Turkey launched a military intervention following a coup aimed at uniting the island with Greece. Turkey established the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, recognized only by Ankara. Meanwhile, the international community continues to treat the north as occupied territory. For Turkey, recognition of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus is a cornerstone of its foreign policy. Over the years, Ankara has tried to gain international legitimacy for Northern Cyprus, even lobbying to include the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus as an observer in international organizations, such as the Organization of Turkic States. However, this strategy collided with the interests of other players, particularly the European Union, which regards Cyprus as an EU member state in its entirety. This makes any support for the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus an immediate red line. Over the past decade, the European Union has been actively expanding its presence in Central Asia. Through initiatives like the EU Central Asia Strategy and the Global Gateway Infrastructure Plan, Brussels has increased its diplomatic footprint and invested heavily in connectivity, green energy, and economic cooperation. At the EU Central Asia Summit in Samarkand, the issue of Cyprus was quietly but firmly placed on the agenda. In exchange for deeper economic partnerships, visa liberalization, and infrastructure investments, Central Asian states were nudged to align more closely with EU norms, including respect for international resolutions, particularly United Nations Security Council resolutions 541 and 550, which condemn the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus's Declaration of Independence. This diplomatic move serves multiple purposes for the EU. First, it pulls Central Asia further away from Russia's orbit. Second, it neutralizes Turkey's ambitions for regional leadership within the Turkic world. And finally, it signals to member states like Greece and Cyprus that Brussels is committed to defending their sovereignty even beyond European borders. For Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and Kyrgyzstan, the economic incentives from the EU outweigh symbolic ties to Turkey. By backing the UN's position on Cyprus, these states secured financial benefits and a stronger foothold in global diplomacy. At first glance, Moscow appeared absent from this diplomatic drama, but silence does not mean indifference. Russia has historically maintained significant influence in Central Asia through military ties, energy, infrastructure, and economic interdependence. However, Moscow has been stretched thin due to the war in Ukraine, Western sanctions, and growing Chinese assertiveness in the region. Russia has no direct stake in the Cyprus issue, but anything that weakens Turkey's role in the Turkic world benefits the Kremlin. Since the Second Karabakh War in 2020, Turkey has steadily increased its influence in the Caucasus and Central Asia, occasionally clashing with Russian interests. Turkey's growing presence in Central Asia has been interpreted by some in Moscow as a challenge to its traditional sphere of influence. By watching Central Asian states distance themselves from Turkey over Cyprus, Russia gains breathing room. It also creates an opportunity for the Kremlin to reassert its dominance in the region without appearing confrontational. Moreover, as Turkey balances its NATO membership with regional ambitions, a diplomatic defeat weakens Ankara's hand in broader negotiations with Moscow. Beijing's position on the Cyprus dispute is one of careful neutrality. China officially supports the sovereignty of Cyprus as recognized by the UN, but avoids directly condemning Turkey. Yet in the context of Central Asia, Beijing's silent diplomacy plays a far more influential role. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, China has invested billions into infrastructure, transport corridors, and energy pipelines across the region. Central Asian states are heavily indebted to China and increasingly dependent on Chinese trade. With this leverage, China has encouraged regional actors to pursue a multi-vector foreign policy, one that avoids exclusive alliances with any single power, including Turkey. The latest developments may be part of this broader strategy. By aligning with international norms on Cyprus, Central Asian states showcase independence while reassuring Brussels and Washington. At the same time, they stay in Beijing's good graces by not rocking the boat on sensitive issues like Taiwan-Xinjiang or BRI projects. China's priority is to maintain regional stability, economic growth, and freedom of movement for its goods. Any tension between Turkey and Central Asian states over Cyprus suits Beijing, so long as it doesn't escalate into larger conflict. For Ankara, the reaction from its Turkic brothers is deeply disappointing. Pan-Turkism, once imagined as a unifying vision across continents, is now fractured by realpolitik. The Organization of Turkic States, despite its cultural symbolism and political potential, lacks the institutional weight to mediate such disagreements. Its members have different political systems, strategic goals, and foreign policy alignments. The Cyprus dispute has exposed the limitations of unity based solely on language and heritage. Moreover, the appointment of ambassadors to Cyprus by Central Asian states is not just a diplomatic move. It's a message that loyalty in international politics is fluid and national interests come first. Was it really betrayal, or is this simply international relations at work? From Ankara's viewpoint, the actions of Central Asian states feel like a stab in the back. But from the perspective of Astana, Tashkent, Ashgabat, and Bishkek, it's a logical recalibration in an increasingly complex global landscape. Faced with pressures from the EU, incentives from China, and an eye on long-term autonomy from Russia and Turkey alike, Central Asia is charting its own course. In this game of great powers, old friendships are not enough. What matters are strategic alignments, economic gains, and geopolitical flexibility. As Turkey reflects on these developments, it may need to reconsider how it defines its regional leadership. The age of ideological brotherhood is fading. In its place emerges a new era of transactional diplomacy, where even your closest allies may one day shake hands with your adversaries.